Welcome back. Welcome back. This is a brand new episode of the Taking Chances podcast, season 4, anniversary season, y'all. I am your lovely host, Justin.
And I'm Quentin.
And while you might notice that there is 1/3 of us missing in this episode, but for this particular episode, we decided we wanted to do something a little bit further for our Black women. Some of you might already know that the Supreme Court on June 24th of 2022 decided to overturn Roe versus Wade, which was a landmark abortion case. The ruling upheld Mississippi's ban on abortion at 15 weeks of pregnancy, and it ended the federal constitutional right for abortion in the United States of America. So we thought to sort of do a tribute to our Black women, and we felt it special to really do an episode focusing on the response from the Black men. So that's why our lovely host Burnett Rutherford isn't joining us today. But in place of that, we thought to really highlight the conversation, to really give it more meaning. We thought to turn this conversation into a barbershop conversation. You know, those conversations where you're with your boys in a barbershop, getting your hair cut on the Sundays, talking about all kinds of things. Generally, you know, most of the time not related to the topic right now, but, you know, we're deciding to use that theme for this episode. So we have two special guests in mind. One you might already recognize and one new. So we have Mr. Vlad, who was here with us on our 3rd season, and we also have brand new guest Trey. He's a native from Brooklyn, and he's very opinionated, so we're really excited to have him.
I'm a military man, so I have gone through my bit of basic training quite a bit. Out of South Carolina, that was a heck of an experience, but definitely transformative. Also, currently working in still in medical as an office manager, so that is going well also. And just trying to live life with purpose and live it up. The next goal for my wife and I is definitely getting a house. Trying to get into that. So when the market is looking a little bit better, that's the next steps.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Trey, so you are a new face to the Taking Chances podcast. Give us a little bit of background on you. Tell us about yourself.
Cute homie, he invited me on the show. We've had many deep talks, and I've always wanted to come on this platform, you know, just bounce different ideas off and, you know, share opinions and just have that genuine conversation. That's something I like having a lot. You know what I mean? When it's just about talking and not trying to prove someone right or wrong. So I'm very excited to be here and can't wait to get the show started.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to have you both back on this episode. For me, at least, this topic really hits strong at home for me because I just want to kind of start the conversation and orient you guys in a couple of facts. So nearly 1 in 4 women in America have an abortion by age 45. Regardless of race, age, or background, the majority of people support Roe versus Wade. In that acceptance of abortion is long-standing. A majority of Americans have wanted abortion to be legal for decades. So this decision was it was a sad day for America, in my opinion, but it also had a lot of greater ramifications that people don't necessarily realize. And I think it's important to really highlight just how deep this decision really affects the people at the core and just really our Black women at the core. Because when you think about it, you know, abortion, besides the fact that it's a woman issue, abortion also is a racial issue. A lot of information, a lot of support systems, resources are being stripped away from our women. And I just think that it's sad to see, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely sad to see. And like you said, Justin, this does affect you very directly. It affects me as well because I'm dating the other third of the co-host, Burnett, who is not on this episode right now. And just to see that effect on her as far as being a Black woman, not even having children yet, just states a lot because the reason why we even decided to even have this episode as just male is because we had a conversation. The 3 of us, me, Justin, and Burnett, had a conversation, and we was like, yeah, you know, we should talk about this. And she was like, I'm not ready to talk about it. I'm still currently living this, so I'm not able to, you know, sit there and articulate my feelings. Maybe later down the line I can address them, but right now I can't address them. So in that vein, we was just like, well, maybe the men need to talk and just, you know, state how we feel, raise some questions if we don't know, just to, you know, have that conversation so people understand that even though the women are always the forefront, most of the majority of the time on certain topics and conversations, that now because it's a direct attack on them, that we can also hold it down for them.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I'm glad you brought out that point about B, because when I heard the news about this, like I immediately thought about like my sisters, my aunts, my mom, my grandma. Like most of my family is women. So for me, this is something that like they're all experiencing, whether or not they've had children, whether or not they're thinking about having children, or whether or not they may or may not have had an abortion. I mean, I have a family member, she without having been able to have that service, she would have had to sit with her dead child. And the fact that people have to really go cross states or really just look for different ways to actually get services that really truthfully are their own choice as a woman, because giving birth is something that like I can't speak to, Quentin can't speak to, Vlad or Trey. Like this is something that we just can't fucking do. So like to be able to kind of just see and feel some of the emotions that they're going through, like it's heartbreaking. They're really stripping a fundamental choice that they can make for their own God-given bodies.
That is correct.
Yeah, I
And that's the
definitely
annoying part, honestly, because it's like, why are they working so hard to? It seems like they're just trying to take more and more away from us, little by little. Like, I remember one time, I forgot what year, what election it was, but I guess the conversation, the topic was women's rights. And in my head, I'm like, why are we still trying to discuss women's rights? Like, they're women, they're humans, we all have rights. Why y'all trying to like take it away from them? That's mad backwards in my opinion. So that's like one of the most annoying parts about this country and these people in these seats that make decisions, when there's a lot more bigger things we can be doing with that time and energy. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, and Trey, I definitely agree. Like, it makes us think that there's an ulterior motive behind it. Like you can't put nothing out there without having a set plan of what's coming up next, and there hasn't really been any further discussion about, all right, it's been overturned. This is what's happening next to something better. There's no other, like per se, and we're just seeing kind of like the books and times getting peeled back more and more. And I mean, it's saddening, like far more to see my wife go through that as a Black woman. We want to have kids. We're in the midst of like really trying to do so. So it does create some fear in me just as she goes through her pregnancy process to make sure like she's good and whatnot. And God forbid if something was to happen where she couldn't carry it to term. I mean, surely I want to make sure she has the best healthcare that she can get to be able to avoid it if it does come down to that. But that's the whole issue that we all have, is like the options, the freedom, the ability to have a choice is stricken away, which is a big problem that many of us don't even realize the domino effect it has, but it does.
That is correct. Because even if you can't bring to term, you end up going to jail for as they want to say, because the baby has rights since conception. So it's tough because I have always thought of it like, what happens in a situation where it's either the mother dies or the baby dies. Like if they get pregnant and it's stuck in a fallopian tube, they have to terminate that kid. But if you terminate that child, you die, you go to jail. So it's a very thin line. And I know that's why there's a lot of like doctors that don't want to do certain procedures anymore.
Why is there just so much like just attachment or just thought in regards to this issue pertaining to the 1,000,001 issues that we have going on in our country right now?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like it's a power construct. Definitely power over the masses. Of course, when there's been pushback based on certain scenarios, which is why we got Roe versus Wade to begin with. We started progressing in a certain way. But as we've come to this climate right now, with everything in politics, within society, even on a socioeconomic level, I mean, we don't know exactly what it is, but like I said before, there's some ulterior motive behind where this was the beginning of something else to happen moving forward. So, and when it comes to humanity, especially the life of man, power, money, greed are motives of many of us, which is sad to say. We've gone through for many years. We made progressions to be better as humans, but like I feel like we're kind of taking steps back little by little, And even like to play devil's advocate, like to say hey, this is something that was needed to be done to save a life. Where are the other steps taken in place, programs in the foster care system to care for children that actually that have abandoned, like parents that may have been abandoned them because they can't take care of them, or for some mothers that were rape victims and they can't financially or mentally, spiritually care for the child and nurture them. Where are those programs within those foster care systems? Because they're just as crappy and they have a lot of their whole other issues as well, which cause a whole trickle effect for the child and their well-being as they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of variables that.
Because honestly, it's a lot of things happening too. Because it's just like they're forcing people to have children, but then those people are gonna stay in poverty. So you're just creating more poverty. Like you're just essentially making people more poor, making the poor poorer and the rich richer. Because you're gonna bring a child into the world and you can't take care of the child. So then now you're stuck with a child that you have to take care of legally, and then you still poor, and then that's more of a responsibility on the parent. So it is a lot. It's a lot going.
The interesting thing about that is, but to your point, Quentin, and Vlad's point, is that this decision really doesn't really affect the Caucasian community. The course decision really most harms Black, Latino, Indigenous, and other people of color, and usually affects communities whose systematic racism has long blocked access to opportunity in healthcare. So when you really think about it, most of these issues directly affect people from our community, affect people from the Latino community, affect people from, who are immigrants. Like, these are people that are historically been blocked to opportunities of, affordable healthcare or reproductive resources or just abortion resources. So when you think about just how deep this really goes into, when you think about the abortion system, it really baffles me how they made this decision without really thinking about the supports in place to support what this really affects and how far it trickles down.
My question is, why was this decision even being reconsidered anyway? What was their point of, I guess, going back on it? Did they say?
Why was it being reconsidered? I guess because they felt that the Constitution and the Supreme Court shouldn't determine that law, because it wasn't written in the Constitution. And because it wasn't written in the Constitution, they felt the need that, well, hey, we could go back and check it, because it's not something that's a bylaw, like we have to do this. So they just felt that they overstepped their boundary. So that's why they reconsidered it, because they reconsidering a bunch of other laws. I know Burnett is our law person. She's not on the episode, and I know she's gonna get me if I get this wrong.
Stop
right there, bro. Just stop right there.
So when she watches this, don't get me. I'm definitely gonna get it wrong. But they're definitely reconsidering gay marriage. It's a bunch of other laws. Like I said, she's all
interracial marriage.
Yeah, so
interracial marriage.
Yeah, they trying to reconsider all of that.
So it's interesting. So I'll break it down a little bit further. So there was another case before Roe versus Wade, and Burnett is probably gonna get me too if I misquote this wrong. But this case was Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, and the reason why Roe versus Wade got overturned, because in that case, the ruling of Dobbs versus Jackson upheld Mississippi's abortion ban at least 15 weeks of presidency. And because Roe versus Wade wasn't a constitutional right, that's how that got overturned. The thing about abortion is that it technically isn't considered a constitutional right. It's not something that essentially is written into the rights of American people of the land. Same thing, and that's why they're kind of going after same-sex marriage and interracial marriage, and hell, they'll probably find a way to go after the civil rights.
Yeah, because they said they was trying to. There's rumors they trying to go for the 13th Amendment.
Yeah, and the thing is, for many viewers to understand, is that when the Constitution was created by the forefathers, which were all white men. Yes, the purpose behind it is monumental within itself. But of that time, it was a different time compared to where we live right now in 2022. You know, culture has made many hoops and changes for the better. And if we're mainly looking, like being really strict and looking black and white here at what it states in the Constitution, we would never have gotten to any of the progressive movements and times that we're living in right now. That's why there's been so many marches. People have been killed and fought for this to where we are now. And it's kind of like taking it all for granted if we're just looking in between the lines and looking at black and white. It doesn't say in the Constitution, so it's unconstitutional. Like, it's not
And
a
I
thing.
find that funny because we still in a pandemic, and I feel like we got another one coming, right? So all these people that are pro-life, I guarantee you, that weren't pro-choice, I guarantee you, they were pro-choice when it came to wearing a mask, right? It's just so funny
Right.
and hypocritical how this world runs, yo. It's disgusting, honestly.
Life is very funny, my friend.
Yo, it's the biggest comedian. I say that all the time, yo.
You're going to see a lot of conflictions within people's arguments and where they stances are at.
They never their points are never linear. Like, they always moving the goalposts to always make it like, but see, if we do it this way, we keep, just like, come on, man, you contradicting yourself every time you speak right now.
And people feel like they look like they have amnesia. Like look at you, you have 5 heads. What are you talking about?
Bro, it's crazy.
It's interesting you guys bring up hypocritical and amnesia. Like, thing one for me was all those people that voted to overturn Roe versus Wade. This was a landmark issue that they said they were for in their confirmations, right? Let's start there. Thing two, it's very hypocritical that we have, like Vlad said, we have this document that was formed way before all this shit that we have right now today, way before people were doing things that they were doing, way before the rights we have right now. So clearly this document was set in a world that doesn't reflect the world that we are today.
Yeah.
So I find it really interesting that we still bind ourselves to this parchment, because that's really what it is, a fucking piece of parchment now these days, that reflects a world that really isn't today right now. I mean, today, we have a woman president. We have a second gentleman in the office right now. We have gay men and lesbian women that are in, congressional seats or Senate seats. We have people that can get up and wake up and feel that they can do anything. So it just really, it's sad for me to see that there are people actively trying to return us to a time where people didn't have those same rights. And at least for me, it really exposes, a lot of the problems that were already there. But like, people don't give a fuck now. And like, wow, I'm, an advocate of people, just doing their own thing, but at the expense of other people. Who the fuck are you to say anything?
Yeah.
It's funny because, to add on to what you just said, Justin, those people in those offices, they govern this world under God, right? Or whatever, religion. But the same people they're trying to govern, that they're hurting, is also praying to the same man above. So it's like, yo, we are all the same. Y'all trying to so hard to separate us for what reason, though? Like,
It's interesting with Christianity too. So like, I've never been a fan of people using religion to advocate like how other people should live. Like, in no way, shape, or form that there is nothing about that in the Bible. The Bible gets interpreted in 50 million different ways. Like, there's no mention of using God's love and using that as you being the benefactor of how people should fucking live. Like, the fact that religion gets brought into politics. Have you guys ever seen this show called The Handmaid's Tale?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
I charge the three of you to watch that show, because when you watch that show, like, I don't think I can watch that show anymore because of this decision. So just to give you a little bit of background on what The Handmaid's Tale is, it's a show where this sovereign government hidden within the United States basically overthrows our government, essentially. So people essentially move to Canada for safety, but in a large region of America, they call it Gilead, men are the sovereign supreme and women basically are handmaids. So the handmaids basically they're just being used to produce babies because for some reason babies is scarce in this show.
Mhm.
So you have your wife, you have your kids, you have the man of the household. He's like God, and you have the handmaid. There's a ritual where every 3 days or so, the husband basically rapes the handmaid in front of the wife. And then when the handmaid has the baby, they house her, they feed her, clothe her, take care of her. The handmaid has the baby, and then she goes to the next house and do it again.
Wow.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Hulu. When I tell you, because I have sisters, because I have like a large family, like female based family, because I have that and I watched that show, and then when this thing happened, like my heart immediately went out to them because when you think about it, like that could be the reality.
Yeah.
It really is scary to think about how, like, for years there's been this show that is really depicting this reality of women's rights being stripped from them and the plight of them fighting to just have that right over their own free being in their bodies and just be able to express themselves. And then to see this happening, it's like, where are we going with this here? Like what's going on?
Like you said,
And just to add, is that show taking place in like today's time?
Today's time.
wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
Today's time.
So that means they're just trying to revert everyone back to those old times where women had no rights. They were just at home being a housewife. So that's pretty much what it sounds like.
It's very puritanical.
Which is dumb because I feel like women run this world, bro. Like, where would we be without women? You know what I'm saying? Yo, we need women. Like, where would we be?
Mm-hmm.
That's.
I mean, when you think about it, like a woman's right to give birth, and essentially a woman giving birth, period, like that is life itself. Like, as many great things as we men could possibly do, like we wouldn't even be here without the woman.
Of course.
We wouldn't be here without their ability to give life and to breathe things into us and to give us, our strengths, our intelligence. Like we really, like they really, what they have done for the world, truthfully, is the world's greatest gift. The world wouldn't be the way that it is without them. So it, like I tell Quentin this all the time. Like, who the fuck am I to sit here and tell another woman what they have to do with their damn body? Like, I have a whole fucking dick. What am I doing? I can't fucking give birth.
You try to make sure you and your dick is good.
Man.
I can't leave. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
I can't have a period. Like, there's certain things I will never ever understand what they go through. So like, I don't understand how white men and that one fucking black man, that fucking coon.
He white on the inside.
They get no ass, bro. That's what it is.
He white on the inside.
Yo.
Oh, that fucking is. But I can't fix my mouth to understand like why they really open their mouth to sit there and say anything. Like,
Yeah, cause I agree with you because I like my I guess only opinion on abortion, because it's like I could never, as a man, you can never tell a woman what to do with their body because the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual changes that they got to deal with for the next 9 to 10 months, depending on how people look at it, that's something we can never. All we did was take 3 seconds to create the kid. They gotta wait. They gotta do months, right?
Yep.
We can only suggest, because you have to understand when y'all have sex, have intercourse, that's like a contract. Every time, y'all do your thing, it's like y'all sign a contract. You know what can happen, and y'all gotta be prepared for whatever does happen. All right, what's the next step? You can't say, "Oh, all right, I didn't pull out in time. Don't have this kid." Like, what if women may not be able to, may not want to have the abortion because they may not feel comfortable doing that. It may affect their body for future pregnancies, and So you can only, I feel like as men, we can only suggest like, yo, if we do this, this is how I feel, and then we gotta move. We gotta take it day by day. But to sit here and say like, yo, you can't do that anymore, that's ridiculous. Because flip the script. As men, would you let a woman tell you, all right, you gotta get a vasectomy?
I want to be for. Yeah, I mean,
We're doing that.
yeah.
Right, rightfully so. It sounds jacked up, but it's the same concept,
It's the same concept.
Some
it's just
people are
like,
doing it. Some wives are telling their husbands to get a vasectomy, and it's only because they have a certain number of kids. They're like, well, I'll consider it. But you not just getting a vasectomy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Vlad, it's reversible.
I work in urology clinic, so I can tell you. I haven't seen them per se, but I've seen many men go through them.
No, but I'm saying, is it reversible?
It is, but not many providers specialize in reversing it. And it also depends on your condition as a man, of like how old you are. So there's other factors that play a role to it.
So it is reversible. So you can always, if you get a vasectomy, always reverse it. So I mean, is that probably easier than just saying that they can't have an abortion? That's the question.
that's
Because it even in that vein, it's just like, yeah, you can't have an abortion, but a lot of women, because of this, are going to be very selective with their bodies, and it's going to be tough for a lot of dudes, because they're going to be like, well, now I gotta be, if I'm going to have sex with this girl,
the game.
Like,
I even heard I heard a segment of the Black Information News Network, how there's like a movement of some women that are just taking out the whole fact of even being able to be pregnant. Wow. So that's the talk right now. If you take away my rights, all right, so I might as well not want to ever be pregnant ever. I don't know what steps or what ways to do that per se in medical, but I mean that type of conversation is coming up. And I mean, that's your God-given right to do that if you want to.
Right.
But it's kind of sad that because of this factor, is causing a whole nother ripple effect where I gotta make my own decision to savor some type of control in my body, so you're not ruling over me.
But see, you know what? That's interesting you bring that up, because like then the next issue is gonna be, okay, well, women are not having enough babies, so we have to try to do something about that. When it's like you can't have it both ways.
Right there.
You can't have it both ways.
That's exactly how
I didn't think about it like that. I didn't think about it like that, Justin, at all. Like, women stopped having kids, and now you don't have any, like, there's no next generation because they're not having kids.
There's no next generation. That's an economical issue. That is an environmental issue.
That's making us endangered species.
Yeah. That's why, like, I don't understand the thought process. Like Black, like, if women really stopped having babies, that's it.
Yeah,
that's
we all die off.
Ain't no new people to come into the world and fix the mistakes that we may have made in on this earth. Ain't no kids coming in to keep our species going. Like, if some idiot decides they want to nuke the world and there aren't enough people left over to repopulate it.
Well, at that point, just if someone nukes the world, I think all laws go out the window.
What's crazy?
Some people may survive. They got bunkers.
Some people may survive. Trey had brought up a very interesting point, and I kind of wanted to highlight on this point. When we were talking about this episode with Burnett, she was saying how her main viewpoint was saying that it really doesn't make any more sense to hear it from our perspective than it would to hear it from the male perspective, because women's issues are at the forefront. What I kind of want to pose to the group is that, why do you think that abortion rights and reproductive services, or just women's rights in general, is a topic that's hard for men to really get behind?
I mean, I could say from what I perceive from the majority of men, they're going to say, I'm not a woman, so I really don't have a say. But you're still a human being. So number one, you can empathize, and you also have a sister, a mother, a wife, someone in your life that is affected by it. So ultimately it's going to impact you regardless. So you got to care about it. The next thing into that too is when it comes to healthcare. I'm someone that works in healthcare. So with that segment, it's a detriment to the quality of life of that woman, or majority of women, especially for women that live in impoverished areas, or just the masses that don't have the access to healthcare they need. It's ultimately, which they probably have some socioeconomic issues, They also don't have the best healthcare insurance, and like all around, the quality of life is not where it should be, based off our standard of like the American dream, or just being in a comfortable economic state. So with that, all those things set into play, you're pretty much setting them out to failure, to where they can't really live the best lives that they can, have the choices that they can do it, and be their best selves. That's the way I look at it. It's a trickle effect. If you take away one issue, they take away something simple but very impactful in overturning this ruling, is creating higher morbidity and mortality rates, because abortion is not going to go away simply because you just overturn it. People are going to find ways to do it kind of like underneath the rug, like type of thing, just figurative speech wise. Or people would have to travel out miles, spend a bunch of money just to go to another state to be able to do it, and pay money out their pocket, because 9 times out of 10, their insurance is not going to pay for it, and they're going to have a huge bill. So I'm like physically, you're going through issues. Financially, you're going through issues. Spiritually, you're going to go through some issues. So it has a detrimental effect all around that I don't think many people see the correlating factors with it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I feel the same way like Vlad was talking about earlier, his first point, where he was saying a lot of dudes is going to come and say that they don't have nothing to say. And in that having nothing to say part, I feel like that's definitely, like they say, silence is agreement. I feel like your silence and not saying nothing is like you kind of agree, you don't know what to say, but you have something to say. It's not the fact that you don't have nothing to say. You choosing not to say anything because you don't want to say the wrong things. But instead of you just expressing how you feel and be like, hey, I may not understand everything, but this is how I feel about it, because you will be affected in some form, shape, or fashion. You're gonna be affected, whether, because like I said, you have a mother, you may have sisters, you're gonna have a girlfriend and or a wife. You're gonna be married to someone who's gonna have to bring children in this world, right? So you can't say that, oh, I don't have nothing to say, because then now they're gonna look at you and be like, well, you're not an ally now, and then that's gonna put you in the outs, because when anything happens with Black men, women are always like the forefront. Women are always the backbone. They're always the one that's championing, doing all types of stuff that dudes don't even want to do sometimes. Yeah. So you always have to be able to uplift your Black woman, uplift Black women in general, because like you said, it's a direct attack, because now you don't have a lineage, you don't have no legacy, you don't have nothing. Like, having kids it happens with a woman. It doesn't just, two dudes just can't have kids. That's impossible. So you have to you have to be able to say, hey, yeah, I don't understand it, and I know y'all being attacked. Just let me know, how can I help you? Mm-hmm. I think that's the first step more than anything. Just to say, I may not get it, I may get it, but how can I assist you guys in, pushing your cause, and then go from there.
Yeah, essentially what Q said, they just don't want to step on their toes, because some, not to sound effed up, but maybe some men agree with the decision that was made. They probably just don't want to come out and speak on that and start getting attacked by women, and then have again, go back to hypocrisy. When something happens to a Black man or any color man, they got women sitting up there and they want to look like, damn, she did that for me, but I couldn't do that for her, type of thing. So I think it's just, they just don't want to step on toes. They rather always be in agreement instead of just sharing. Because you don't always have to have some deep opinion on the topic. You could just say like, yo, I don't like what was made. Keep it very simple. And sometimes I think they overcomplicate the thought process that has to go into such heavy conversations, that they just rather stay quiet. And it's really just, I don't like it. I feel for you. As a woman, as a man, I feel for you ladies. That's messed up. And then how Q ended his point, what can I do to help you? Yeah. Something as simple as that. They just, I guess they just thinking too hard.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, so my viewpoint is a little bit interesting, because So while I never dated a woman before, my majority of my family is mostly women. My dad died before I was born. The person that raised me, Lord knows who that man is today. But the three people of my being are my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother, all three women, right? So like when I think about how all the things that they put in me to be the man that I am today, to sort of be like a focal point for my family, like it makes me think about like as a man, like how can I not say something or not care for what they're going through, what their experience is. Like and also as like a gay man, I kind of feel like, okay, I don't see how, you don't support these women who are fundamental in a lot of the things and rights that we have today. I mean, I damn sure wouldn't be the man that I am had it not been for some of these dynamic women that have been around doing these things. Had it not been for my mom, my grandma, my aunt, for all the, women leaders of the past that fought for women to have rights, that are Black women that fought for us to have rights, that fought for us to, be able to live and breathe and think. So like, it, for me at least, because like women are a large focal point of my being, like it really frustrates me to see dudes, especially like us, really not like come in and have like stronger opinions about it. Like even though we might not understand what they're going through, we might not be able to vouch or speak to their experiences, like their experiences are our experiences when we really like take some time and think about it. So like it really saddens me that like, men, especially Black men, have this standpoint where like this is a woman's issue, when like, yo, their issues are always gonna be our issues. They're gonna be our issues because we choose to lay in bed with them. Well, y'all choose. This gonna be this gonna be but even for me, like even if I decide I want to have a kid, like their issues are always gonna be our issues.
Mm-hmm.
So like we really need to do a better job of really holding ourselves accountable, not just the four of us speaking to it. And I'm happy and I'm just blessed to be able to have this conversation with the three of you. But like we need to really like charge our Black men, our Latino men, just men fucking period, to really take charge up and like, excuse my French, but use their fucking balls. Like, you got them for a fucking reason. Hold up to them and hold up your woman, because they've held us up for all these years and they're a part of our being. So I just think for me, in terms of like what we can do better, I just think that we need to really do our best to educate ourselves in some of these things that they're going through, really be informative as to the different changes that all these women are experiencing or going through, and just really do a better job of speaking to them. It's not just, even though the terminology is women's rights isn't really just a woman's rights, it's also our rights, because without their rights, it trickles back to us.
Yeah, human rights in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always find it funny when like, have you guys ever been in an actual barbershop talk situation where you guys are next to actual other men, just men? You got that one person talking about this topic and everyone is like, well, he's going off right now, I'm gonna just look at my phone. Like they look away.
Mm-hmm.
That is always hilarious to me.
It is.
I just want to share that.
They're like they suck their teeth and be like, here we go. Like,
right?
I definitely get you. But the piggyback on what you were saying, Justin, that is a big fact, and rightfully so. I feel me, Black man, I have a Black wife. She's held it down for me many times, rightfully so. I feel in my gut, in my soul, like to do the same for her. It's an equal transaction. But at the same time, everyone has their way of doing it and can do it. I think as long as you're not just silent and you just say something to show that, hey, this is my current view. It's simple. I'm still trying to digest the whole thing, pick up the pieces, know a little bit of the history of what's going on. But like I'm learning of like how detrimental this actually is. And then as you move along and grow within that mindset, then you can speak out a little bit more. But number one is definitely holding your person down, women in your family down is crucial. That's where I stand. Because they backed us up all our lives. We were nurtured by women, so definitely so we should do so.
Definitely. It's definitely paying it forward, because like you said, Vlad, we were all nurtured by a woman. And granted, we may not be in the situation or the place to take care of our parents because we're not in a relationship with them. But even to take care of the person that we end up with or the person that we're dating, just to make sure that they're okay. It's like paying it forward. Like you get the knowledge from your parent and then you pass it down. So it's just to keep that ball rolling, like just to keep it like, hey, like, yeah, I may not get it or I may get it or I'm confused, but it's a learning process. And the more that you learn, the better you are expressing and handling the situation. Because like you said, you may not want to talk on the first go around. People ask you like, oh, how you feel? You like, I don't really like. I think of it as like a media day. Like, you know how they ask athletes questions and say, oh, how do you feel about this? And they don't know nothing about it. They just like, I think that was wrong. They don't know nothing about it, but after that, they know, like, all right, cool, let me go read about this. Let me go figure it out. So next time, if it comes up again, I can speak a little bit more in depth on it. So you got to feel like, I wouldn't say treat it like a media day. That sounds really crazy. But
to me on all.
Just have the mindset of like, all right, cool, this is something I was brought up. I don't get it. Let me go back and try to do some research of my own and then try to figure it out.
Absolutely. I mean, it literally takes all of 5 seconds to pick up your phone and Google something you're not sure about. Like, it takes like the same way that we can like look at, you know, what's going on in the sports world, what's going on in the media world. Like, it literally takes 5 seconds to pick up your phone and educate yourself, or even better, like ask your female friends, ask them what they're going through, ask them questions about things you're not sure of. Like, this is a conversation that needs to be had, not just amongst women, but like the brothers, the fellas. Like, we need to do a better job of topping in the conversation. You know?
Yeah, we definitely do need to do better. And I feel like we just need to expand the conversation. Because, like, as we know, we have people that don't want to talk about it, just even to educate them. Because they say the more the merrier. The more people that you have on this topic, the better it is for everyone. Because then you have more people to discuss. You have more people to talk about certain things. I'm not sure. I think we talked about this before off air. But we talked about even watching the Hulu documentary, Aftershock. Just to even watch something like that, you're shown a certain world, and you are able to be like, all right, cool. I never got that before, but I get it now. Like, because even with Aftershock, that whole C-section thing blew my mind. I'm sitting on the couch like, yo, I never knew it like that. I just knew that people have C-section, they have vaginal births, but it's like, nah, this is a machine. Like, we are pushing C-sections. And then you can sit there and you can make your own determination. Because in my mind, and Burnett, who's also not on here, but I was just like, nah, I'm scared for you to have a kid. Because if we go C-section, it's a dub. Like, I'm in my mind already thinking that, like, we go to a hospital, you have a kid, we're not doing C-section. That's it. Yeah. I'm everybody in that building. We're not doing a C-section. For them to cut you open, have an amateur doctor perform the surgery and have potentially complications. We may not have complications, but just have the mindset, because this is something that can happen. Because they in a rush, like Vlad was saying, they in a rush. They trying to just clear a bed, so they trying to get you in and out. So we're not doing that. We're not doing the C-section.
I'm definitely feeling that. And in light of that documentary, just watching it too, I never knew the huge benefit behind birthing centers.
Right, that too.
Yeah, and that's another option where you can definitely have the doula and have the midwife there, and that's a more comfortable, stress-free environment than being up in the hospital. You have the monitors going, you have the physicians and the nurses all around you. You're stressed out, and these are things that add into the complications that many women may face being in a hospital setting. You know, to ultimately complications when they're giving birth and complications to the child. So it's like, I think everything is just changing the whole narrative and opening out more options of how labor is done and how new life is born to this world. You know, so I'm more on board with birthing centers. Like me and the wife.
Like, I wish they had those in New York. Like, I'm really about to go like look them up. I'm nowhere near having a kid, but I'm just like, nah, I want to find out more. Because it's just like, to make it easier. Nah, seriously, because you need to know these things. So when it does happen, you're like, nah, I have a list. This is what we can do. These are our options. And it's
Yeah,
always
you plan ahead. Yeah, because you know.
Mhm. It's really interesting to see, like, and I'm curious to see, like, if these were the conversations that they held within that chamber when they made the decision. Like, did they think about the implications on hospitals and how they regulate birthing systems? They think about how it will affect the nonprofits that get funding for reproductive services or just healthcare in general. Did they think about, the people that can't even afford access to even buy a Plan B pill? It's just there's so many moving components that this decision affected or brought up to light that it kind of scares me, that there's people in place making decisions that are making these decisions solely based off of their own personal shit. And the fact that now, they're being more like open with exposing that, yeah, I made the decision because I just truly didn't fuck with it. Even though my decision affects all of you, but I just personally don't fuck with it.
I don't think they thought about it.
I think they did. I think they did. You know why I think they did? Because you got to look at the world of politics. It's always who's in your pocket, right? So you have all these people that back you. You have to appease the people that back you. They funded whatever you do.
That's why I don't think they did it.
Honestly, I'm gonna say. Oh, go ahead, Trey.
My fault. Yeah, this world, to counter your point, Quentin, this world is ran on money. So by you taking this away, the amount of dollars that you're losing, like you said, Plan B pills, you're losing a check from that alone. Abortions, they're not free, am I correct?
No, I don't think
you're
so.
losing a check from that. And then going back to what we were just talking about earlier, like, you start women stop having kids. That's less and less people. Like, that Social Security that we're banking on when we get old may not have the same funding, if there's not that many people working. That's why I don't think they really thought it completely through, because for this world to be ran on money and you're hurting your own pocket, like, it's kind of backwards from their point of view, at least.
Oh, that's a fact. And I mean, just to piggyback on that, Trey, is like you have institutions that are just solely abortion clinics. They're not going to be active anymore, especially if they're in a state like, let's say, like Tennessee, that does it. That doesn't legalize it anymore. Federally. Those institutions are going to be closed down. When you look in the medical field of those that are set out to be OBGYNs, that's a part of the curriculum to know how to do an abortion appropriately. So it's like, what's going to happen next? Is that going to be taken out the curriculum? What people are not going to just know, or like, how is that going to come about? It's a domino effect, straight up.
All they're going to do, I was going to add on to you, and all they're going to do is probably shut down those institutions and put up housing for kids that got to get born now. Not to sound effed up, but like, now we need space for these people. We need extra, the newer kids. That sounds politically incorrect about my sentence.
Not put up housing for the new kids, but not the homeless across the country.
Right.
That's a different topic. But definitely. But Trey, it depends. Back to your point, Trey. It goes to the point of your party line, right? So if you believe in a pro-life or pro-choice, depending on what your party line is, that's how you get funded.
I get that for sure.
They taking money out of somebody's pocket, but they like, hey, well, we funding you, so you got to make this law, and if you don't, we're gonna take your money. But they don't really care about the other side. They need people that's gonna be judges, that are appointed judges that have a worldly view, not people that's just like, oh yeah, I don't support this, I don't support that. Now you need to think of the world and the country as a one person. Like, if I do this, how does this affect the person?
Yeah.
They don't think about it like that.
Because ultimately, the idea of America, like, we're a melting pot of different people, different backgrounds, different cultures. So for the greater good of the country, it's for the masses. And that's equity right there. And to talk about the politics aspect of it, Quentin, I think of it like House of Cards. If y'all ever watched House of Cards.
I never watched that.
Beautiful show.
That's literally what it is. And it's a real mind game. It's crazy. Like, you can be blackballed in one way, but kind of smooths up next to someone that can give you this amount of money to fund this initiative or this bill or this plan that you have going on. It's wow.
So House of Cards, would you say it's similar to how Ozarks is. Ozarks was when if y'all watched it when like
Mhm.
Wendy was in the whole politics seat doing all that nonsense she was doing.
Yes, I would say it's similar, but House of
Okay,
Cards goes way more in
Way
depth
deep.
of
Super.
more in that.
politic realm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wait,
okay.
they
Yeah.
show you like how they whip people and not literally whip, but
Mhm.
how they get votes and how they get
That,
all
that,
this stuff and
that
how
was the
it's,
right term, Quentin.
and how nah seriously they
Yeah.
really
That's sort of whipping the votes.
they whipping the votes, but they really, like Trey, they have like major schemes of how to get this passed, and they find people, they find dirt on this person, dirt on that person, they turn them, they vote for them. It goes way more in depth. Like
deep.
trust-
Mhm.
that
Okay.
is excellent. Like if you want to ever go into like how politics ran, that's a show to watch.
I'm gonna add it to the list.
Most definitely.
House of Cards, The Handmaid's Tale. That's your homework.
Yo, I got a lot.
That's later. But my fellas, I want to close out with a question for the group, and I want each of us to take some time to answer this question. What is a takeaway that you've taken away from this call today? And I'm going to start with my guy on my left, Quentin.
My takeaway from this is definitely having men that are more from different walks of life and just having the ideas fleshed out, have just talking about it, because we're all from different walks of life. We all have different viewpoints. Like Vlad is married, Trey is single, I'm in a relationship, Justin, you're in a totally different atmosphere. So not just a totally different stratosphere. Like, but we're all affected by this one thing. This one commonality makes us all equal in this one viewpoint. And just to have that commonality is like, well, yeah, we all can fight for the same things, even though we may be different and we may disagree on other topics. But this one topic is what we're focused on right now. And then the more of us that can focus on the one topic and not really on the differences, we can make a change. So I would say that's definitely my takeaway.
All right, we're going down to Trey.
My takeaway, I think, would be more of a question. Outside of just marching and doing the protests, what more can we do to help women and battle this, fight this battle? Like, what's another thing or an extra step we can take? Well, how can we do more to assist them? Because talking is always a great thing, but just after talking, what's the action now? Like, what else can we do to really, I guess, push their agenda and being their allies, our agenda, in collaboration with them? What more can we do to push and keep this world, trending upward in a more, I guess, progressive, is that the proper word?
Yep.
Progressive light. Like, how can we be open-minded to everyone and just keep fighting this battle, and how can we help them? Because hearing everyone, all three of you guys speak, I've learned, I never knew about birthing centers, Vlad and Q, and then the different ways that this decision impacts women. Some that I never thought of. Hearing Justin speak with using his mom, grandmother on, for example, I have the same situation. I damn near learned how to treat women by watching how not to treat them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Right? My mom, my grandmother damn near raised me. I got a bunch of aunties, so we're in the same boat. And just how can we just keep just how can we be their support and be their backbone this time around? That's what my takeaway is.
Big time.
I'm gonna pass it down to Vlad.
I would say my biggest takeaway point is more of being fortunate to have this conversation around all three of y'all. Because this is like the first conversation I've had around other men, this being a little more elaborate about it. And I've had my conversations with my wife. We've gone back and forth about our viewpoints, and I've learned a lot from her, especially from the legal spectrum, being an attorney, and her hearing my viewpoints of how to be a trickle effect in healthcare. But yeah, this is the beginning of something where, yes, as Trey said, like, we can talk a lot about it, retain information, but the next step is the action piece. Where do we take it from there? I feel like some people will say, hey, this is where we use our rights that we do have when it comes to voting, of those that have the mindsets and values that kind of similar to what we have, and how they're going to kind of put it in place to implement it. But on more the local level, I think it's more finding different outlets of like how can we improve the quality of life of women in general. A whole nother piece of that when it comes to abortions is like those ladies that may have been rape victims. You know, rape culture is a huge thing in our society. You know, spreading more awareness about that so they don't have to go through that terrible situation, be impregnated, and then having to say, I don't want to keep this child because I went through such a terrible situation. You know, that is also a domino effect. So that is something for more awareness and protection for our ladies on a scale like that. But like these are my thoughts, and I feel like this is definitely the branching point to build upon moving forward. And even things that I can do in healthcare, kind of like the wheels are turning a bit of like how I can like put that into play into where I'm at right now.
Okay. Justin, before you go, because you're gonna close out once you're done. Yes. Before that, I would say, Trey, to both you and Vlad's question about what do we do next, right? And I think I'm jumping the gun, but it's okay, I can do that. This was a part of a 2-part series, right? So, so Trey, your question is going to be answered in the next part.
I was about to ask that. I remember you saying this is 2 parts, and I was going to actually ask this question.
You did a good segue, Trey.
So your question of what we do next is going to be answered. So I would definitely tell everyone else that's watching, including us, just watch the next part of this because it's going to be the women's turn, and they're going to answer some of the questions that we raised here, especially the question of what we do next. So we're working on it. So
yo, just don't come for me. If I said something that offended you, ladies, do not come for me. Okay.
I think everything on here is fine. Everything is fine. Nobody said nothing crazy. So the only thing that might happen is me and Justin might get chewed out for that.
The legal part.
Leave them alone.
That's about it. But other than that, I think we're good. So on that note, I'm gonna give it back to Justin. Justin's gonna close this out.
Well, thank you. I think for me, and I love the Q's choice of words for my stratosphere atmosphere. So it's totally different stratosphere atmosphere. But I think for me, the thing I'm taking away from this conversation is a bigger sense of accountability. I mean, I may live in my stratosphere, but at the end of the day, like, I am a man, I'm a black man, and this is something that I really have an issue with a lot of gay and bi or cisgendered men. Like, just because this is a woman's and straight women's issues, not straight women, straight man's issues, like, it really is our issue at the end of the day. Like, when I think about women, when I think about the woman that raised me, like, when I think about all those things, at the end of the day, like, I am still a man. I'm a black man. I'm also a man that can still choose to have kids if I choose to lay down with a woman or not. And because I am all those things, like, you know, I need to be held myself to a better accountability and be more understanding with issues that they're going through, the ways in which that I can support them, and also challenge people like me to be more vigilant when it comes to supporting them and whatnot. So, you know, I'm definitely taking away like a lot of amazing things from this conversation. I really want to thank Trey for coming on for the first time, Vlad for coming back again with us, Quentin, you know, my brother in arms. Guys, it's been such a pleasure to host this conversation. This has been a live chat from the barbershop. We'll see you next time in the beauty shop.